welcome to my channel. Today I'm looking at Victoria sandwich cakes. However, we're not just doing your basic Victoria sandwich cakes. No, we're going to be looking at different flavours. I've got 3 coming up for you. I've got a lemon and raspberry, chocolate orange and cappuccino cake, all made from the same recipe, Victoria sandwich cake. Stick around and I'll show you how it's done. Anyway, let's get on with this. Liz, how are you going to make the lemon and raspberry one? Now we're going to make a Victoria sponge, but this time with lemon and raspberries. I've set my oven to gas mark 4, I'll put the electric equivalent down below for you, and I've lined 2 20cm 8-inch, if you will, cake tins with some baking parchment. And now we're going to make the cake. So we've got in here 6 ounces, I'll put equivalents down below for you, 6 ounces of margarine or butter or plant-based spread, whichever you want to use, along with 6 ounces of caster sugar. So it's equal quantities this, it's an easy one to remember if you're ever stuck. And we're going to cream it until it's light and fluffy. Once you have a nice light consistency, it's time to add some flavourings. Now, I like to put vanilla in my sponge cakes, or the majority, just because I like the flavour really. You don't have to, sometimes I do miss it out, but I'm going to put about a teaspoon in there. If you're not good at eyeballing, use a teaspoon. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add flavouring in the form of lemon zest. I've washed this lemon, it's an unwaxed lemon. I can't really use the ones that got wax on them, all you'll taste is the wax. So if you are looking for lemons to cook with, always buy the unwaxed ones. And we're just going to take the zesty part of this, so a couple of scrapes across. We're going to use the whole of the lemon zest, or as much of it as we can get off without getting the pithy bit in. The white part, if you get down to that, is the bitter part. That doesn't have any flavouring. It's just pretty nasty to taste, so try not to use that bit. You can of course use lemon extract, which I do have in my cupboard, but I like the colour that the lemon brings to the cake. It brings this lovely, absolutely stunning lemon colour, which is always nice because you eat with your eyes, don't you? You don't necessarily, it's your eyes that see it first, isn't it? So I'm going to pop that in and then whisk it in, mix it in. Okay, once you've done that, it's time to start adding your eggs. So for every 2 ounces you put 1 egg in, and in this instance we've got some large eggs, so we're going to, it is the preference large egg because it works better. So if you've got smaller ones you may need to put extra in, or at least a little bit more milk, because they don't have the volume of wetness that you need for the cake. So mix that in. Okay, once you've beaten it in and it looks like it was before you started, get another egg and pop that in. Okay, so that's 2 eggs we've got so far. As you can see, we're back to there again, so it's time to add our last egg. So that's 3 eggs for 6 ounces. An egg for every 2 ounces of dry ingredients that you use. Okay, and when it comes together, it's time to take it off the mixer. So once you've taken it off the mixer, just give it a run round with your spatula and make sure you catch all of the sugar and the margarine that was on the edge there, and give it a good clean up around the edges. Okay, when you've done that, it's time to add your flour. Now we're using self-raising flour, and again it's 6 ounces, so you can see the pattern here. 6 ounces of marg, 6 ounces of caster sugar and 6 ounces of flour. So we're going to put in our 6 ounces of flour and shake it gently from a little bit of a height. Just be careful with it, because self-raising flour does have a tendency to cloud the issue and go everywhere. So we'll pop that in. There's no baking powder going into this, because baking powder is already in the self-raising flour, and we haven't got, like with some cakes, we haven't taken out any flour to add another drying ingredient, so it's going to be fine, this one. So just gently mix it together. And if it does look as if it's a little bit dry, which it can do depending on the weather in your area, I know that sounds daft, doesn't it? But it does make a difference. You may need to add a little bit of milk. So I will add a little bit of milk into this just to keep it moist. So to my mixture, I'm going to add about 2 dessert spoons of semi-skimmed milk. So there's 1, 2. And that's just to keep it nice and moist. If the cake batter goes in dry, your cake comes out dry. If it goes in fairly moist, it comes out fairly moist. So we're just going to gently push that together. There we go. And now we're going to distribute it between the pans that I've got prepared. So we've got 2 pans, and we're going to distribute it as evenly as we can throughout the 2 pans. So I've got my scales, change them over to grams because they're easier to see, and pop it on board. And we've got 487 on that one. Put that there. And 513 on that one. So we need to put a little bit more in here, which I do have hanging around from the bowl that I kept. So I'll just pop that on. There you go, 500. So what we need to do now is even them out. So taking your spatula, we're going to spread it out, and as I always say with cakes, spread it out from the middle to the edges and then even it out, because the middle is the bit that's going to dome up a bit. So we want to make a very slight dip in the middle, because it will absolutely dome up in the middle if you don't. So now I'm going to bake these in an oven, gas mark 4, for 20 to 25 minutes until golden. So they're going on the same shelf. Just give them a tap in case there's any air bubbles underneath where we've been working, and pop them in the oven. A plate with a bit of greaseproof paper and then a little bit of caster sugar on top. Then I'm going to take my cake and gently tear back. This is why I do this with them, so that it's easier to get out of the packaging greaseproof paper that we put it in. And then just upside down, put that to one side and pop that on there. Okay, once we've done that, we can put our raspberry filling on. So I've got about 4 tablespoons of raspberry jam here, and I've put it in the microwave for about 15-20 seconds for it to warm up just slightly, and we're going to place it on top of here. Now this is our lemon cake that we made earlier. We're going to pop it on there and then just spread it out. Try only to go in one direction, because if you start going like that, backwards and forwards, what tends to happen is it picks up cake crumb, which we don't want. I've done that before. So just spread it out around and about. There we go. Of course, you don't have to make this raspberry. You can put whatever filling you want into this. I often put lemon curd into my lemon cakes in the middle and then put a bit of glassy icing on top. That's always good. So the best thing to do with this is make sure you get it right to the edge. Nobody wants a cake with no flavour in. I know my family eat them better when they're sweet. Okay, once you've done that, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to put some raspberries in just to give it a bit of freshness, really. Doesn't have to be many. Just a little few around the outside and in the middle. Okay, so once you've done that, it's time to put the top on, which is this bit here. As you can see, it is quite flat because of the way that I spread it out in the tin to bake it. So, and what we're going to do, put that over there. Let's take that bit off because it's going to come off. Let's pop that on top. Okay, give it a press, make sure it stays. And then what I'm going to do is just sprinkle some icing sugar on the top. So all I'm going to do is just give it a good coat of icing sugar. There you go. And there you have your lemon and raspberry cake. Enjoy. Next up, we've got a little treat for all those chocolate lovers. We've got chocolate orange cake. How's that gonna go, Liz? Before we start, set your oven to gas mark 4, 180 degrees Celsius, and let it heat up. I'm going to make a chocolate orange Victoria sandwich cake. So start with, as we do with any other Victoria sandwich cake, and we put equal quantities of sugar, caster sugar, and spread or butter or plant-based spread, margarine, into a bowl and cream them until they are light and fluffy. Now in here I've got 6 ounces of each because I'm doing 2 8-inch tins. So start off slow and build up your speed as it gets incorporated. When it's a couple of shades lighter, it's time to add your eggs. So I have, for 6 ounces of butter and 6 ounces of sugar, I have 3 large eggs. So in goes number 1, hopefully without making a mess. Woohoo! Okay, once that's done, what we're going to do is add some flavouring. And the first flavouring we're going to add is orange. Now you can do this in 2 ways. You can use extract or you can use fruit, whichever you wish to do. Now just be aware though that if you add too much wetness, this isn't going to work. So I tend to find your best bets are the zests of a fruit or extracts, and I would recommend extract instead of essence, but if essence is all you can find, just be a little bit more frugal on the input of it. Don't put too much of it in because it can leave quite an aftertaste. Now the beauty of this is that you're going to add it and you don't need a lot of it, so it doesn't affect the volume of water in your cake, so it won't affect the cake. Whereas if you added juice, it will affect the cake. But to get our orange today, what I'm going to use is an orange. There we go, as we are. Because it is direct hit of flavour, it gives your cake a lovely glow. And I've got an orange in my fridge that I need to use up. As well, I have to say, oranges are cheaper than orange extract. So yeah, I think it's a good
cheap option. And don't forget when you're doing this that it's not the white bit we want, it's just the coloured bit, the zest we want, which I'm not using. So once you've done your orange, you just need one orange zested in. Oh, lovely smell. Make sure you wash the orange before you actually zest it as well. A lot of oranges have wax on the outside to help them last longer. So once that's done, blend it in. You'll get an amazing aroma from it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And what we're going to do now is incorporate our dry ingredients. Now then, you do need to use a sieve for this. It's time to add some cocoa powder. So I have 1.5 ounces of cocoa powder. Try not to go above 1.5 ounces for 6 ounces of margarine because you'll find it will make the cake really dry. The thing with cocoa powder is I don't know if you've noticed, but it doesn't really absorb fluid very well. It takes a wee while for it to do that. I don't know the science behind it. So blend in your cocoa powder. Now there's no gluten in cocoa powder, so don't worry about over mixing or anything, just go for it. Okay, and once you've incorporated that, it's time to incorporate your flour. Because we're doing a 666, we're going to add the equivalent of dry ingredients. So we've already added 1.5 ounces of cocoa powder. What we need to add now is 4.5 ounces of self-raising flour. So 4.5 ounces of self-raising flour in there. And I've also added 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder into this, just because when you add cocoa powder it tends to stop the rise a little bit on cakes, because it's not self-raising flour basically, it's plain. So there's no raising agent in it, so we put a little bit, 1/2 teaspoon only of baking powder in here to help the cake rise. So we're going to sieve that in. Okay. And we do this gently. As you can see, the flour's incorporated and it looks a little bit dry, and the reason why I think it's dry is because it's not automatically coming off my spoon. When you've been making cakes for a wee while, you kind of get which is dry and which isn't, and this is a little tiny bit too stiff. So what I'm going to do is add milk, yogurt, buttermilk, but in this instance I'm going to be adding semi-skimmed milk, so I'm going to add a splash of milk. Don't go too heavy on this, guys. It's about a tablespoon, maybe a couple of tablespoons at most there, and just beat it in quickly. And as you can see, that's all it needed to make it come together and be a little bit looser. Look at that. I don't want dry cake. Nothing worse than dry cakes. So I've got 2 tins prepared here, and what I'm going to do is divide my mixture between the 2 tins. So now we spread them evenly across the pan. And once it's done, we stick it in the oven, gas mark, for 20 minutes and then check it. Thanks for watching this far. If you like what I'm doing, hit me up with the thumbs up or subscribe, or do both. It all helps. Next one is, wait for this, cappuccino cake. If you're a coffee lover like me, you will love cappuccino cake. Liz, how are you doing that?
So in this instance, for my cappuccino cake, what I've done is I have already mixed together 6 ounces of margarine or butter, 6 ounces of caster sugar and 3 eggs. What I'm going to do now is add the flour, and we have 6 ounces of flour going in now. What we need to do is remove our bowl from the stand because we don't mix flour in by the mixer if we can get away with it. And we're going to sieve in 6 ounces of our self-raising flour. This helps the cake stay nice and light. So gently does it, 6 ounces of self-raising flour. So this is just the same as the other 2 cakes that I've done. Okay. And then gently just fold in until it's mixed and you can't see any flour left. Put it all off the sides before we do anything else. Right, now this one is going to be a coffee cake, or rather coffee and chocolate together. So what I'm going to do now, just checking that all my flour's mixed in, is I'm going to make some flavouring. Now I don't have any coffee essence, so if you don't have any coffee essence, the best way to do this is with good old regular coffee. There we go. Can't remember what sort it is, I must admit. Just pop that over there so you can see this. And I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of coffee into this bowl. 1, 2, and then I'm going to get some water. This is warm water from my kettle, and I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of water in there for now. I'm going to give it a stir to dissolve the coffee that's in here. Might take a minute or 2. But what we're aiming to do is dissolve it. We want as stronger coffee as we can get. If you don't have coffee essence, this is the best way to deal with your coffee. You can use most forms of coffee. If you want to use decaf, that's fine. So long as it's really strong, it should come out fine. If the coffee's okay, the cake will be okay. If you like the coffee, you'll like the cake. I wouldn't actually use ground coffee in this, as in percolated coffee. So when you've got it as blended as you can get, this doesn't want to go any further, we're going to put some into here. So we're going to start off slowly, and we're going to add maybe 2 teaspoons because this is really thick and really strong. So we're going to mix that in gently, but just make sure we distribute it throughout the whole of the batter. And I wouldn't put any more than a tablespoon, which is 4 teaspoons of coffee in. There's only so much extra moisture that a cake can take, and I think it's about a tablespoon at most. So as you can see, that's well mixed in. So what I'm going to do now, as with the others, is divide it between my cake tins and bake it, gas mark 4, for 20 to 25 minutes. So to make the coffee icing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sieve 6 ounces or 200 grams of icing sugar into this bowl, along with 3 ounces of butter. So when you're making butter icing, it's always half the amount of fat to icing sugar. And I'm going to get my tea towel, my clean tea towel, and pop it over my machine because this will create a lot of dust. So just pop that over there for a second while I switch it on. We've got a little bit of coffee left over from earlier, so I'm going to put about a teaspoon in. There we go, of coffee, and then give it ready. Okay, we'll put a little bit more in, maybe 1.5 teaspoons, because I like a lovely strong coffee flavour. I've made my buttercream, here we go, and I'm going to put a little bit in the inside and a little bit on the top and decorate it a little bit. Now I am not a cake decorator. I make cakes and I cook, but I'm not a cake decorator by any stretch of the imagination, which you'll probably see when I put this on. But what we're going to do is we're going to put some of the mixture on the inside, about half the mixture. We don't want too much of it. And we're going to spread it around. Now the cake, as before, is on a piece of greaseproof paper, and it has sugar on the base of it, just so it doesn't stick as much. Try and keep going in one direction, it makes it easier and stops all the crumbs forming in the middle. So I've got some dark chocolate, and we're just going to grate it over the top. Milk chocolate will be a bit too much, really, too sweet with what we've got going on here. The bitterness from the dark chocolate will help tremendously in this. So I'm going to take the top half, which we have here, and take the bottom off. Just pop that to one side for now, and then gently place the top half onto the base. Okay, don't worry if it's oozing out the sides, it just looks good when it's oozing out the sides. And then I'm going to put the remainder of the buttercream on the top. So once again, chocolate over the top. And there you go, cappuccino cake. Enjoy. Well, that's it for this week, folks. Thanks very much for watching. If you like what I'm doing, hit me up with a thumbs up. Please think about subscribing. There's about 95% of my watchers don't subscribe. It would be really helpful for the channel if you could do so. And let me know down below if you've tried any of these, or if you haven't tried, which one you're going to have a go at. Lovely. For now though, Liz out.